shot dead because he was trying to expose, put light on some illegal activities that was going on in his country. When we look at the world in a macro level, we see that there is so much of inequality between the rich and the poor. So can we still say that the democracy is actually working? We can see that the world is just getting worse day by day. So what do you think, in your opinion, can be done to overcome these obstacles so that the democracy stands out?
It's interesting that you raise you're representing India here, but Karl-Erik Norman, in his book in 2009, he put India in a special bracket that is a functioning democracy without, let's say, many of the features which are, the basis for democracy in the rest of the democratic world, so to say. But on the other hand, India has another one feature, and that is the rule of law, which is pretty good in relation to many other developing countries. But I have never claimed that democracy is the solution to poverty. You see that there is let's say, a relation between those two things. I'm not of the opinion that is exactly so, that it must be so. Any system in the world should aim at solving the problems of inequality and poverty. Why put the blame on democracy if let's say, India, for example, it's not solved let's say, the poverty problems? And there is the temptation, as I said, of the Chinese example, that one would believe that with some order and lack of other freedoms, you could achieve that goal of eliminating poverty. So it is a predicament, I say, but I think that there are other things which must be done in India. One is, as I mentioned, corruption is one thing, must be eradicated in order to get, let's say, the right balance between these factors. And perhaps I stop there.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for your very interesting speech. You mentioned in your speech that political parties have become sort of graveyards, as you put it, and that there's a lack of appeal to the broader public, but also especially amongst young people being fascinated in the democratic process or interested in this process. Do you think that in order to strengthen democracy, we need to build a broader appeal towards young people in the political process? And if so, how do we get young people fascinated again to value democracy?
I hope I would have a recipe for that. But this is the clue that which many political parties, if they are interested in the future, they are fighting with this problem. How to create a platform which is could, let's say, fascinate young people, or let's say, I think that the let's say the solution or the right way would be that political parties must go back to their roots and see can they create a new vision for the society as it is today, because most of them are living in the past in a way. They are mass parties. They want to solve a specific social problem, or they represent a certain group in society. They are based on the trade unions in the society, or they defend, let's say, the rights of the bourgeoisie or whatever. But they don't have a vision where the society is heading. They don't have a global vision and not a national vision. I think that is the only way for them to really to be attractive for young people. You cannot build that new relationship, emotional relationship, as I call it, with them by saying we are a party for the young people or something like that. Then you become a new interest party with a special interest. Let's say the young people fighting the old establishment or something like that. It should be a vision which covers, let's say, the whole society and the future of the globe, of the nation and the globe.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you have a question?
Yes.
The last one, because we are behind time.
Okay. My name is Aloysius Awa from Cameroon. Thank you for the presentation. So you mentioned the fact that Africa's government, they cannot have good democracy because one president will rule for several years. I'm a victim of that because my president has been there for 36 years. So what I'm saying, what I want to ask is, how can Africa achieve that kind of democracy we have here in Europe or in America? And if it can be possible, how can we do it to maintain it forever, like what we have here?
Thank you. I have a chapter in my book saying that can you export, or asking the question, can you export democracy? And my answer is no. I mean, that is what has happened with Africa. You had the Westminster model or the French model or something like that in most African countries. I think that one way forward would be that it is already also, or I believe it's a must that you must create some African form of democracy who is respecting some of the traditions, because now one of the problems with African democracy is that tribal and clan and family ties are much stronger than, let's say, the relationship with, or the how do you say, the belief in society, in common values of the society. The African corruption is not the same as corruption in Russia or in corruption in China or Europe or India. It is more based on the responsibility to let's say to other entities than the state, and not surprisingly the belief in the state as a good factor is low in the United States. In my country, is very high. We believe that the state is there for good. It's a benefit for us. So this is one of the problems, and for Africa. And as I mentioned, I don't think you can start by saying now we need real democracy. You must start with those three factors I mentioned. First, you must eliminate conflict, because you can build fantastic democratic models on fantastic good welfare states, and then you have a conflict, everything is destroyed. And then I mentioned, of course, corruption, which is endemic, and it is not only an African, let's say, tribal, let's say, result, it's also the foreign mining companies and oil companies and all these who are coming into the society, who are undermining, so to say, the traditions. And if you can eliminate, and then I mentioned the judicial court system. Without a reliable court system, nobody will believe in the future of a society if you cannot trust the dealings of the judiciary. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Just let me make a remark on the dependency between democracy and economic dynamics. You know, usually in a developing countries, to be developed, they need to accumulate a lot of financing. You know, usually GDP is divided in two parts: consuming part and investment part. In China, by example, they are investing 53% of GDP into the next development stage, and they are consuming only 47%. In the United States, 75 they are consuming, 25 they are investing. And the experience shows that when you are investing more, you are getting a little bit far from democracy, because investing means centralizing resources. Centralizing resources means centralizing the power. That is why, to my mind, for such countries like in Africa or less developed countries, we often are observing the violations of democracy. Of course, if you are happy, you can solve your development problems with democratic rules. Thank you very much, Mr. Foreign Minister, for being here with us. And we think that we are continuing the discussions around democracy. Our next guest will be very celebrated entrepreneur, Mr. Steve Austin. And